Welcome to the Social Millennial Podcast. Gang, NYC Phase 4. We in here. No indoor dining, though. We could tell who got the hustle genes with these restaurants because they just started building out outdoor dining into the parking spaces. You feel me? Half ghetto, half street smart, half hustle gene. I know it's three halves. It is what it is. We NYC. We special out here. Gang. So they've been cracking down. I've noticed in the news, at least online. I don't know about television. I don't really watch network TV too much. But they're cracking down, and it feels like every week I'm opening this podcast with they're cracking down. But fam, y'all's is out here not social distancing, and they're taking people in. People are going to jail. I mean, they're probably gonna get released in a few hours, but you're going to jail if y'all are congregating in some crazy way, like they were saying. I think they alluded in some of the articles to breaking up sex parties, etc. Fam, I know y'all horny. I know y'all trying to get it in, but it is way too early to be trying to get it in with some crazy mass, sex party. I know we going there, but we going there. So yeah, they're definitely cracking down. Some wild stuff happens. De Blasio is what De Blasio is and doing what De Blasio do. Warren agents picked up that little white girl. They just scooped her up, threw her in the unmarked van, and drove away. It's some controversy. I get it. It is what it is. The officers didn't effectuate that arrest in the best way possible, considering they just didn't care. They didn't give, and just grab her, get her. Threw her in the van, unmarked. We out. And it's crazy because they had her on surveillance on some criminal vandalism over mad areas in NYC, which is wild how they put it together. And they found her. NYC is not even like London. That's like super Big Brother. So whatever you do out there, there's cams all over the streets, and they could track you down. NYC has cams, but not quite like that. But she was just everywhere where there were cams, vandalizing NYPD cameras, straight up with spray paint and all that, straight criminal vandalism. But they let her go. I don't remember if there was like a bail thing or they just caught and released her. I mean, 7 or 8 counts of criminal vandalism. Come on now, y'all just gonna let her go? But then again, it is COVID. We are under, the bail reform, quote unquote, reform laws that have been jacking up our city. The crime rate is getting crazy. Just over the past week, in Brooklyn, where that child, there was this baby that got caught in the crossfire, I believe. Yeah. No, not that incident, but that was one incident. Babies out there in stroller. Some other shootout happens completely unrelated outside. Everybody's outside barbecuing, etc. And baby catches the bullet. R.I.P. It was crazy. But there was something else that had happened at the park, and they're assuming that it was gang related. And with all of this upped police presence, it was like the next day was more gun violence in the same place. Like, it's getting wild that because of the laws going on right now, and on top of that, because of COVID-19, they're not holding these criminals in jail. They're just not. So they get taken in and they get, just let go again to walk out among and chill. And they come out and do it again. It's wild. I remember in the early stages, not the early stages, but when the laws changed, and there was this one guy, I forget his name. He just ODs or used to OD. I don't know if he's still doing it. He might still be doing it at the turnstiles, at the train stations, straight up stealing people's money, straight up stealing Metro cards, straight up hopping to the turnstile. It was like over 100 and something arrests, and this dude was straight up, and I'm gonna do it again, talking about cracker this and cracker that. Yo. Then there was the other guy that was robbing places, not armed robbery. because he was doing it when no one was in the places. You know, during lockdown when everybody was closed, he was just trying to rob places. He got caught. Got released again, I think same day or the next day, went out that same right out the jailhouse and went to start trying to rob somebody else's place. It's getting wild with this crime thing. But y'all need to social distance. Wear your masks. COVID has not just magically disappeared because it's the summer. What I can give kudos to is what New Yorkers have been doing up to this point. Gang. Deaths have gone crazy down. We had a day where there were no COVID deaths. Cases are going down. You know, they're not going up. And it's crazy because right across the river in New Jersey, it's starting to spike. But over here, we're chilling. So y'all are doing your thing. Just keep doing it because we don't need another wave of COVID and everything. Because Cuomo and de Blasio will lock everything down in a heartbeat. They will scale it back and just be done with it. Because with what's happening now with people congregating and not social distancing, Cuomo was already talking about scaling stuff back. It was wild. But yeah, just keep doing what y'all doing. If y'all are doing the right thing, and if y'all ain't doing the right thing, get it together, get your life. Because we're trying to make it out. We're trying to make this money. Everybody's trying to get in their bags. You know, I know the essential workers have been in their bag this entire time. But some of us who are not so essential are still trying to get back in our bag because some of these industries are still not all the way opened up. Entertainment industry is like in NYC is opening up very, very slowly because people don't really understand or know, or like we don't know what to do about maintaining a sanitary environment while we're trying to film with all of the people that are on set and so on. It's a thing. Like a lot of stuff has to get developed. A lot of protocols have to get developed. There are some casting announcements now for us actors for things down the line, but nothing is promised. Broadway's not coming back until next year. And we're talking about next year spring, next year summer. So it's like nothing is promised at all in terms of entertainment industry. And I just found out that comedians, in terms of socially distanced concerts and so on in New York City, comedians could perform outdoors, socially distanced, etc. But singers can't do it. And I was flabbergasted when I found that out. Like, why would vocalists not be able to do it, but comedians can do it, even though everybody would be socially distanced, etc. But it is what it is. You know, like I said, these industries are opening up little by little. In case it's got to close down again, it would not have opened all the way back up. You know, the floodgates, and then it's harder to close all of that quickly. But yeah, we're just trying to get in our bag, y'all. So let's try to do it right and make it happen. Sounds of NYC. I can't believe music is still happening, but it's still happening. NYC is a city that never sleeps. I'm going to do my best to talk over it because I don't need to get any kind of disclaimer, you know, from any salseros as it passes by. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. An eventful week indeed. Try to stay away from politics. I don't think I want to touch on anything like that for this week. So much is going on. I don't think I want to hit it. Y'all have heard enough of it. But big kudos, big shout out to Miss Taraji P. Henson and her 2-year first look deal with with Fox. The big news is that she's developing an Empire spin-off series that centers around Cookie. Now, from what I'm hearing, I really didn't see the whole of Empire. Kind of checked out after the first season. From what I hear, it ended up going off the rails, and then of course Jussie Smollett happened. Juicy Smollett, as Dave Chappelle so lovingly put it. All that happened, and the show ended rather abruptly, I hear. And despite it going off of the rails, it seems like people were still watching it because of Cookie. Even though Terrence Howard was billed as the star, Mr. Taraji P. Henson's performance was the breakout performance of the show and kept the show interesting, or as interesting as it could be, considering, from what I'm hearing, that it went off the rails. So I'm hyped. I am hyped that Taraji P. Henson was in her bag, that she signed this first look deal to try to develop some of these shows. Hopefully she gets a producing credit. But yeah, it's supposed to be based on Cookie. It might, who knows? Potential's there. It might have the potential to bring on some of the Empire characters and cameos and things like that. But yeah, she's in there 100% developing it. We'll see what comes of it. We'll see what ends up happening, COVID and filming, etc. But it's supposed to be, at least this is what the Hollywood Reporter reports, it's supposed to be following Cookie as she moves to Los Angeles. So we're going to see what ends up happening with that. I am hype. I will watch it. Like, I will give it a chance because it's Taraji P. Come on. Taraji P. Miss Henson. You you be killing it. Like, for real. You are a wonderful entertainer. A wonderful actor. So that's that. And what else do we have? Before I get into sad things, let's talk about Disney and Star Wars. I know last week I talked about some of the rumors happening with Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Disney internally. Once again, super rumors, but we'll see what ends up happening. Right now, some more super rumors coming from the same rumor mill is that there are a few scenarios that are going to be going down, a few options that are supposedly supposed to be going down with the future of Star Wars in film, and they have to do with not necessarily retcon. Well, no, there is a retcon option where, quote unquote, they're exploring to use the veil of the Force to mess with some kind of time travel and go all the way back to essentially the inciting incidents of The Force Awakens. So before the Force Awakens film, the backstory where Luke tries to kill Ben Solo, and Ben Solo retaliates, and it pushes him into the dark side all the way. That somehow they're going to go back in time and tell Luke not to try to kill Ben Solo, and then that's going to give way to creating a new trilogy. So that would be interesting. Then there's another Veil of the Force thing where it just causes the current trilogy to be considered as like an alternate reality, like an alternate version. So then we can just have a trilogy. And then the other one is just doing everything over again, disregarding the current trilogy as if it doesn't exist, and doing a film that's a little bit after Return of the Jedi and set in the Mandalorian, the show, the Disney Plus show, set in the Mandalorian's timeline, like in that time, featuring Luke. I don't know how they're going to do it because that's like 10 years after Return of the Jedi, and Mark Hamill is all the way old. So I don't know how they would accomplish something like that. I don't know if they'll do de-aging. I don't know how that would work. De-aging for such a long period of time in a film. I don't know. Technology's come a long way, but I don't know. So we'll see what happens. I, for one, my opinion, Social Millennial Pod opinion, and I don't even think it's a hot take because I think, or I would wager most fans of Star Wars, not casual fans who just watch the movies and take them in, but fans who watch the Trig, the prequel trilogy, played some of the video games. I didn't super get into the extended universe, but my opinion, my take, Kathleen Kennedy needs to be gone. 100%. 100%. They need a whole nother team. They need a whole nother head. It could be George Lucas. It could be somebody else. It's fine. Just let's give somebody else a chance who really cares about this IP and who, wants to do right by the fans, wants to create something, doesn't just want to bolster the numbers, doesn't just want to have the crazy high returns that we all know Star Wars can bring in, because even though this new era trilogy has brought in $4 billion upwards of for Disney, doesn't mean that it was great. Doesn't mean that they were fire films. The first one, Force Awakens, was a retread of A New Hope. It was great. Was a fun little nostalgia hit. You know, we get a little hit of nostalgia, you know, as J.J. Abrams is pretty good with producing for us. But it wasn't a great film. It wasn't like the Ridge Tridge and even parts of the prequel trilogy. So I think it should just be someone else. Female, male, it doesn't matter to me at all. Just someone who cares. Because Kathleen Kennedy didn't seem like she cared at all. I think she just wanted to get the numbers or what have you and just do something. You know, just do something with it. Like, I think it's 100% conjecture. I don't even really know what's going through Kathleen Kennedy's head because I'm not Kathleen Kennedy. But they understood that the IP prints money. When they got Star Wars, when Kathleen Kennedy took the helm of Lucasfilm, I'm sure they had their meeting with the heads and Disney and Disney Plus and all that jazz, and was like, this IP prints money. Do what you want to do because it's going to make money regardless. And unfortunately, doing what Kathleen Kennedy wanted to do, just with each attempt, with each iteration of Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy, it was just more goodwill lost, more goodwill lost, more goodwill lost, more goodwill lost, until we are where we are now. So yeah, just replace Kathleen Kennedy. It does not have to be George Lucas. I think we do need a new brain, a new mind to deal. I hope it's not Kevin Feige. I really am a little weary of Kevin Feige dealing with Star Wars and dealing with Marvel, being the head of Marvel Studios and Marvel Comics now, because that's what he's the head of. I feel like it's going to be too much. Marvel's building into something else and going in another direction, and I think we need Kevin Feige to keep this thing going. If we lose his brain power and he's divided onto something else, I think we're going to see a lackluster performance from Marvel films. Aside from market saturation, because Lord knows they're going to be releasing a crazy amount of films, one after the other, per year. So aside from the potential for market saturation, I think, the quality is going to go down if Kevin Feige is divided between Star Wars and Marvel. So that's my take. Let's get on to some science for my science nerds, my geeks, for lack of a better term. I feel like nerd is a played out term anyway, but something kind of interesting, or hopefully interesting, to anybody who likes marine biology. Sleeping microbes woke up. So scientists in Japan, let me give you the location and the setup. This is according to Live Science. Microbes buried deep in the ocean. They these Japanese researchers aboard the drill ship Joides Resolution. Wow. Okay. They collected sediment samples from the bottom of the ocean 10 years ago. The samples came from 328 feet below the 20,000 foot deep bottom of the South Pacific Gyre. That's a region of the South Pacific with very few nutrients and little oxygen available for life to survive on. The researchers were looking for data on how microbes get along in such a remote part of the world. So, like, what do they do? How do they survive? How do they eat if there's no oxygen or they're oxygen deprived for a long period of time? At first, they thought that maybe this zone was an uninhabitable zone. There was just no life there. But when they brought these samples up, they realized, or I should say when they brought them up and they started to feed them nutrients, these single-celled organisms, these microbes, came back to life. And this is soil, this is sediment, 101.5 million years old, which is crazy. They fed them oxygen, they fed them nutrients, and the cells woke back up and started to reproduce. Crazy. 99.1% of the microbes in the sediment deposited 101.5 million years ago were still alive and were ready to eat, ready to consume nutrients and oxygen and breathe, etc. Which is wild. No one in the scientific community thought that an organism, even a microbe, single-celled, could survive for that long. 101.5 million years and could still just reanimate. The scientists theorized that the microbes were surviving on tiny air bubbles that come from the surface and other animals breathing and jostling around that just sink down to the bottom. That's what they theorized that they survived on for so long. But man, that's a long time. That's before humans were around, before a lot of the dinosaurs were around. That's a long time. Now on to some controversy. So Ellen DeGeneres, The Ellen Show. I'm sure we all know who Ellen is. But the show came under fire for a toxic work environment. Turns out a bunch of people came forward, current employees, a lot of ex-employees came forward talking about unjust firings, talking about racial speak, talking about all kinds of stuff going on with the producers to the staff, towards the staff. So much so that Warner Media launched an investigation into the Ellen DeGeneres show. And this story broke through BuzzFeed News, interestingly enough. And it was a while, I think 2 weeks or something ago, and Ellen had not released a statement. She stayed quiet until now. And now we learned that she was instructed to stay quiet until, most of the investigation was over. But as it seems, based off of what's being said and so on, Ellen is taking the responsibility in as far as she can, with considering that her name is the one that's up in lights. But it seems like she had been insulated from what had been going on with the staff. Like there's a separation. Ellen is the star of the show, and then it's the producers that then deal with the rest of the staff, and not necessarily Ellen herself, quote unquote. Because I remember hearing, and that's when that story broke on BuzzFeed, that there were some things with Ellen too. But they're investigating. The investigating is just about done, and there's supposed to be some changes to the staff. And so she released a statement apologizing. We need to get it together. Essentially, was the gist of her statements. As a person who has been otherized during the course of her career, had death threats and so on when she came out as gay in the 90s. She understands and most certainly does not want anyone to feel otherized on her set of her show. That she said they're going to correct the issues, that actions are going to be taken. She says, quote, "As we've grown exponentially, I've not been able to stay on top of everything and relied on others to do their jobs as they knew I'd want them done. Clearly, some didn't. That will now change, and I'm committed to ensuring this does not happen again." End quote. So people are expecting certain executive producers to be slashed and so on. No one's being named by Warner Media as to who's going to be fired, etc. But speculation. The producers, the EPs, the executive producers, are going to get or are expected to get some kind of lashing, But it's just wild because Ellen is, or at least the Ellen Show, seems to be this place, this beacon of light and joy and so on. And just to think that even in an environment or even though it's being presented as something so clean and so pure and so light, and you'd think it'd be fun to work there or work with her or work for that show, that there would be so much widespread wildness, It's just interesting. What else do I have? Oh, okay. My last little sort of not so happy story, but drama. Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I have not sounded off on any of the Epstein stuff. I do believe that this dude, it's, oh my gosh, being a New Yorker, native New Yorker, born and raised, I don't believe Epstein killed himself. When the security footage cannot be found, when the person that was supposed to be with him ain't with him, and when the guards are all asleep, no one's watching him, and then he kills himself. That doesn't make sense to me, especially knowing what I know about the police in New York City and how they're sort of like an organized mafia, depending on which precinct you in which jurisdiction and which district you're at. It's more severe than others. But right now, since he's gone, we've got sort of his second in command, his accomplice to this whole sort of sex trafficking underage girls, sex island setup, Ghislaine Maxwell. So reportedly she's supposed to have been the helper, the appointment setter, she's the lady that breaks in the girls. And it's so nasty because it is. Like, it feels nasty to even say. But right now, the allegations are that she ran some of the books. She is also romantically linked with Jeffrey Epstein. She groomed young girls into having sex with Epstein and other men, etc. Just recently, there were a whole bunch of documents that have become unsealed related to Maxwell's dealings with Epstein. And I think this is going to blow the lid off of stuff. Now, she's not supposed to go on trial until next July, which is insane. Talk about COVID. Pleaded guilty on July 14th and pleaded not guilty. And she pleaded not guilty. So we're going to see how this pans out in terms of her legal team fighting this. I'm super interested to see what ends up happening here. But when is she set to face trial? 23rd. Right, 15 years ago. Right. Am I bugging? Feel like it's supposed to be next year that she's set to hit trial. Unsealed last August. So I'm just going through my notes here just to make sure I got it down. Unsealed the documents July 23rd. Not guilty July 14th. January 2015. Man, where did I see that? Okay, yeah. So it's not necessarily a specific date. It's just supposed to be next July. I just wanted to make sure I got that right. Just got to make sure I keep it tight, keep it right. Make sure I'm giving out the right information. I'd hate to give you all the wrong information. But yeah, next year. So she's supposed, and it's wild because I feel like when she got denied bail so that she could be held in New York freaking in the New York system here, I was flabbergasted that her lawyer, her legal team did not fight harder to have her like under house arrest or with an ankle monitor or even just give her bail, because it didn't seem like she was a flight risk. Because one, she's already flagged. Her passports are flagged. She's not going to go anywhere. It doesn't seem like she would have the connections necessary to be able to smuggle herself out of the United States. And then anywhere else that she would go, they would extradite her for crimes like this. This sort of child crimes and sex trafficking, etc. She would get extradited, and the places that don't extradite or wouldn't extradite for something like this, she would not want to go to, because she would not be able to live in or live the life that she's accustomed to living. She'd be out in certain Middle Eastern territories, etc., certain African territories, and they won't extradite her. And I don't think she would want to live that way. When Epstein was on the chopping block, so to speak, she did not leave the United States. And she had to have known that they were going to come for her. Like, even if Epstein, quote unquote, quote, gigantic air quotes, didn't kill himself, gigantic air quotes, wink, wink, she must have known, her and her legal team that's on payroll must have known that the federal government was going to come for her, at the very least for questioning. She did not bounce. She didn't skip. She didn't go to another country. She chilled and stayed in place, and they just pulled up on her and brought her in. So why would the judge think that if they set a bail and she could pay the bail, or they put her on ankle monitor or something, that she's going to somehow escape? I feel like her legal team did her a disservice, and when it comes time for trial, which I'm going to be honest, my take is she's not going to make it to the trial. Between now and next July in the NYC system, I think she's in Manhattan Corrections down by City Hall, which is the same place that Epstein, quote unquote, gigantic air quotes, wink wink, killed himself. I don't think she's going to make it to trial, but we'll see. We'll see. We will 100% see. I hope that by the time she makes it to trial, if she makes it, she would have changed out her entire legal team. Because, fam, this is a huge dropping of the ball. She should have been able to be. And I'm not saying like, oh, she deserves better. Because they need to put her under the jail. If she's found guilty, especially considering a lot of the stuff that's already come out, that's scathing, they need to put her under the jail. If she's found guilty, I'm down for that all the way, but it just doesn't make sense to me considering that Epstein died in police custody in NYC. I think it's the same place that they're holding her there. They held Epstein. I could be wrong on that, but she's here in the NYC system, and I don't think she's safe in the NYC system to make it to trial. I want to see her get to trial and get found guilty and get the crazy jail sentence. I want justice to be served. I don't think she should be killed in jail. Same thing with Epstein. I didn't expect that he was going to get killed, but I suspected that something was going to go down because he's got too much dirt on too many people. Too many powerful people. He has too much dirt spanning across the globe. And it's wild. A lot of people are not paying attention to what's happening with these documents and what has already been exposed about who's dealt with Epstein and so on. Aside from Trump, because, the media is going to jump on the sort of what happened between him and Trump. A lot of other stars, movie stars, film stars, president, other officials from other countries have dealt with Epstein and his little island and so on. So we'll see how that develops, We'll see where that goes. Then another super big, shifting over to not necessarily getting super serious, Netflix. Oh my gosh, I was so happy. For those who have not heard, and for those who have heard, we need to celebrate, fam, because all of these shows are coming to Netflix. Finally, I've been waiting for these shows. I had been talking to my friends like, yo, when is Netflix going to get this? When is Netflix going to do that? How is Netflix going to compete with Disney Plus and Hulu when Disney now owns Hulu? It's crazy. And it was announced, Moesha's coming August 1st. The Game, season 1 to 3 is coming August 15th for this month. Then we're going to get Sister, Girlfriends, The Parkers, half and half, one-on-one. It's going to be flames. On top of what Netflix is doing with all of its foreign films, like featuring a lot of foreign stuff, which I think is super cool too, even though I don't really speak Hindi, etc. But I think it's a cool thing to be able to offer so much to so many different cultures, and especially in the especially in the United States. I'm feeling it. Super feeling it. So I'm going to be happy this month and these coming months with Netflix. It's going to be lit. I'll get to revisit all of these shows. I remember back in the day, I was a youngin' when these shows were around, UPN 9 and a lot of other channels. So it'll be fire. It'll be fire. I hope that you guys are super excited too. So a little something that I've been going through this week. A few things that I've been thinking about on how I know I talk a lot about the haters. And I know last week I talked about the haters and how they're still going to follow you. They're still going to look after what you're doing, to try to copy off you, to just enjoy themselves hating on you because they want what you have. And I was just thinking about appreciation in light of, pardon me, let me move this chair. Ugh. Let me get some water too. Jeez. I'm starting to get a little parched. In light of COVID, our mental health, keeping it together, a lot of us losing our jobs or having our jobs go on hiatus. A lot of us, some of us coming down with COVID-19, recovering. Others coming down with it and not recovering. Rest in peace. Some of our family members not recovering. Rest in peace. But appreciation, because I know we were all on our grind and we were all trying to get in our bag and stay in our bag before COVID hit. We had plans. We had places that we wanted to go. We had trips that we wanted to take, trips we were saving for. We had accolades that we were driving towards. We had plans. Companies had plans, etc. But we had things that we wanted to do. We had things that we were expecting to accomplish this year. And COVID didn't necessarily, because, the year isn't over and we can still accomplish what we need to accomplish. We just shift our focus. COVID slowed things down. I can speak for myself in NYC. The lockdown, just everything stopped. Everything was no one was walking in the streets. There were no cars. No one was going anywhere. Lockdown unless you are essential. And I started to think about what failure is. And what failure means to us. So last week we talked about success. We talked about your star player. I touched on making sure to get in tune with your star player, understanding what success means to you and not trying to conform what your meaning of success is to everybody else's meaning of success is. Because it's okay. What is successful to you does not have to be what's successful for the person next to you, and vice versa. But what about failure? What about feeling like we did everything that we could, or feeling like we could have made better decisions, and that it's accumulated enough that we feel like failures? We did not get to accomplish the things that we wanted to accomplish. And what I have to say to that is to shift the focus. Yes, there may have been things that we fell short of. We're not perfect people. We make decisions that we feel will best suit us at any given point, at whatever given point in time, whatever snapshot. And those decisions are not always the right ones. Hindsight is always 20/20, 100% of the time, unequivocally. Hindsight is 20/20. But we must shift the focus. In a time like this where we feel like we're not going to get to accomplish what we want to accomplish or what we wanted to accomplish this year, in order to fight depression, in order to fight sort of the malaise of just thinking about day in and day out all of the things that you could not do, we need to shift the focus and appreciate all of the things that we were able to do with our life, all of the heights that we were able to climb to, and the places that we are now. Because as you start coming down, ticking off these things down the ladder, you will undoubtedly begin to understand that it could always be worse. And I know it's a thing that we've heard a lot, oh man, this can't get any worse. It can always be worse. And no, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. This is not meant to diagnose or to treat depression, clinical depression, or anything like that. Definitely go and seek help. Definitely read some books. Get yourself out of it, out of that funk. Or if you can't, and it's ruled that it's a chemical imbalance, then go through the proper channels. But I know what's helped me from sort of not being so melancholy, not being so sad about the things that I couldn't do. Shift the focus to the things that I did and that I can do. As examples, all the things that I did as examples that I have done it. I have done things. It's not that when I set out for something I failed or I have not gone places. I'm not a bump on a log. I've went through this, I've went through that, I've went through this, etc. You start ticking down to understand that I've come to this point in my life and my understanding and where I'm at now and how I see things and how I've grown, and that without having gone through all of those things and reached all of those achievements and all of those milestones, I would not be the person that I am today. All of those times that you could have died, all of those times that you could have been hurt, but you weren't. All of those times where you thought that you couldn't make it through the thing that you were going through, you couldn't see the finish line, you couldn't see the end of it, but here you are. Shifting the focus to those things builds yourself up. And I was trying to get away from saying self-esteem, builds your self-esteem. But it puts change in that jar. Remembering. Sometimes, this is interesting with the change in the jar. Our jars are getting filled up and have a whole bunch of coins in them, a whole bunch of money in them, because of everything that we've done during the course of our lives, all of the little victories that we've had in our lives. Doesn't have to be that you won a Nobel Prize. All of the little victories, all of the little successes in your life that have brought you to this point, all of the great decisions, all coins in the jar. And sometimes when the flow of coins in the jar gets slow, we start feeling some kind of way, Maybe it's not that I'm able to throw mad. Maybe it's not that I'm feeling like I'm having a whole bunch of wins and I'm throwing mad coins. I'm making it rain quarters into my jar. We start feeling some kind of way. We start feeling like we're failures because of the distance between our wins. But when our wins have some distance between them and we've got to work to the next win, what can keep us during that journey, one of the many things that can keep us, is going back to the jar. Let's count how much I've accrued in this jar. Yeah? And then you start. You empty out your jar. Oh, I remember when I did this and I accomplished that. Man, I was so strong. Man, I never thought that I was going to make it through this such and such a thing. And I made it through. I never thought I was going to make it through this divorce. I never thought I was going to make it through this breakup. I never thought I was going to be able to deal with this boss that was crazy and nuts, but I made it through. I made it out of there. I kept my head above water. I didn't think I was going to be capable of achieving this accolade or dealing with this promotion. I thought I might have been out of my depth, but coin in the jar. You put all of your coins in the jar back, and you're now understanding how much you've got in the jar and how much you're worth. And it's not that you're a failure. It's just you've got some work to do to get to your next win. You may feel like you're losing. You may feel like you've lost, but you've just got a little more ways to go to get to the next win. This next win is, around the corner, across the thing, run across the field a few miles, and then you're going to find a hole, jump in the hole. You got to do some things sometimes to get them wins. Sometimes it's a quick win. Sometimes it's a medium win. Sometimes it's a supersized win. And you've got to play the long game. And there's going to be a bunch of setbacks to get to that long game win. But you got to weather it to get to that win. And along the way, it's easy to get discouraged because of the setbacks when you're going for that long win. Or when it feels like it's a long time between wins. Because it may not be that long, but it feels like that. When the whole country locks down, when New York City locks down, it feels like forever to the next win. But that's the time that we take to sit down and empty out the jar and start to count. Start to take stock of where we've been, where we've come out of, how strong we are to have made it to this point. And if we were strong enough to make it through all of that, we're strong enough to make it through all of this. We're strong enough to stand up from being a little, morose, melancholy. We're strong enough not to give in to certain sadnesses or to certain despairs, because we took the time to reassess our value. And interestingly enough, reassessing our value had nothing to do with how other people perceive our value. So this runs right into what does success mean to you? So when you empty out your jar and you're taking stock of all of your wins, I mean, these wins could go back could go back as long as you can remember, when you were a child and you won that first game of tag, like 100%. It goes hand in hand. So when you're putting it in. You've already understood what success means to you, or hopefully you have a better picture. Hopefully from the last podcast, you had a week to get it together. But you've assessed your star player. You've gotten in touch. You understand what success means to you. So when you empty out the jar, you're like, oh snap, I had success here. I had success here. I had success there, for whatever success means to you. So then if you want to put it in terms of successful and unsuccessful, oh, I had success here. I had success here. By the time you've taken stock of all of your successes that are put back in your jar, you are a successful person. And there's so much more success that is to be had in your life. Your life is not over. There's so much more success to get. But you are presently successful. If you want to put it in terms of success and unsuccess, or success and failure, I guess. I don't know. Winning and losing. But you want to take that time so that you can not stop focusing on the time between wins. You can stop focusing on the feeling of losing, because it's the feeling of losing. 9 times out of 10, you're not really losing, Now, yes, we have losses in our life that we can't control. Sometimes we lose family members. We lose that job that we need, and we're on the brink of homelessness, etc. Sometimes we do lose. I'm not saying that we don't. I'm not saying it's just I'm not gonna have money to pay rent, but it's okay. I'm not losing. I'm not saying that. I'm not going that far. I'm not blind to those facts. But outside of those things, in terms of the things that you're putting your hands to, when you put your hands to the plow for the course of your life, when the winds seem far between, when you're in a lull between wins, when in between the wins, things happen that were outside of your control and you lost, something was taken away. We go back and we take stock of what we have. We regroup and get a better understanding, a deeper understanding of what we have at our disposal. There's our jar. Open it up, spill it out, take stock. Take stock. By the end of that taking of stock and understanding all of the successes that you've had and all of the things that you've gone through to bring you to where you are, and even the things that seemed to be the most heartbreaking or the most world shattering, those things contributed to the person that you are now. You would not have had certain successes if you were not broken at that moment in time in the past. If you did not understand that brokenness. Coins back in the jar. By the time that jar's filled, your whole perspective is going to change. You're going to be reminding yourself of your value, reminding yourself of your worth, because your worth never changed. You never became less valuable as a person. It just feels like that sometimes. It just feels like, we're failures sometimes. But then when we hit the info, when we hit the rap sheet, when we hit the jar, we go, oh snap, I forgot that I had this. I forgot that I wrote this thing and used to write every year from my school's literary magazine. I forgot about that. And you start, people talking myself happy or whatever, but you start to remember and remind yourself of your value, of your worth, and so on. So it was never gone. You're just reminding yourself. You're hitting a lull. You feel like you're hitting a dead end, especially in COVID and lockdown, and we lose our loved ones and so on, and we're hitting a wall. And sit down, take a breath, open the jar, empty it out, and you'll see. You'll see. Try it. And I'm sure as you try it, you'll learn even greater things than what I'm saying now, because this whole exercise or process is to learn more about yourself. So remind yourself about yourself. Remind yourself about your power. And who you are. Remind yourself of your agency. So yeah, that's what I was thinking this week. So wins are so far apart, and coming together with the haters and so on, just kind of sort of puzzle piecing these past podcasts together, and sort of the message of love and so on, and forget the haters, there was going to be there. It gets to you sometimes when, for my creative community, when you put yourself out there as a creative in whatever way that you do, whether it's writing or dance or music, producing, writing, songwriting, whatever it may be, acting, put yourself out there, and the people that you want or would hope support you, or that you thought would support you, are not supporting you. The people that you wanted to support you are not supporting you. Those times when that happens, when it's like, you're not sharing my stuff, there's no congratulations, there's no nothing, in a time where you may not have a whole bunch of wins and the perfect cocktail of circumstance, and it just feels like you're taking L's. Just open up the jar. You got that self-doubt. Maybe this is not good enough. Maybe this was not this, and maybe my stuff is just trash. Open the jar. Count those coins. Count those successes. Sometimes you got to be reminded. We forget. We forget our power. We forget our agency. We forget that we're fire. We forget that we, as creatives or as a secretary or what have you, as a sportsman, we forget we're fire. We forget everything that we went through to make it to this point, and that turned us into who we are. So open the jar. Remind yourself. You might be surprised at what you remember. You might be surprised that you would come out of despair from just remembering your power, remembering your worth, remembering your value, remembering your successes. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about this week, and that's what I have to offer y'all. I hope that it helped somebody, one person. I hope there was at least one takeaway, y'all. Anybody who's hearing this under the sound of my voice, I'm here to help. So, time for some recs, and then we out. Let's see. I've been going through a whole lot of stuff. I've been super on YouTube lately. Let's see. I recommend, for those who do not know, Hishi, How It Should Have Ended. Channel that's been around for a while. It's an animation channel, and it's legit that. They animate films and go over how the film should have ended. So like all of the more realistic things that should have happened when certain people did certain things, when Thanos said this, or Tony Stark did that, or Spider-Man did that, or Luke did that, they animate that. And so it's pretty funny. 100%. They've got a huge backlog of videos, so you've got content for the whole week if you want it. Most certainly, go check it out. How It Should Have Ended is fire. I feel like I'm wanting to support a lot of these smaller. I mean, Hishi is not necessarily a small channel, but I feel like I'm starting to gravitate or wanting to recommend a lot of the more obscure in terms of mainstream media, mainstream entertainment. Recommending a lot of these little diamonds in the rough and what would be considered the more obscure modes of entertainment. But it's great. It's funny. It is amazingly funny. There's overarching stuff. They have the villains cafe. They have the villains pub where all the villains chill. The heroes cafe. Batman is like everybody's favorite character. A lot of the superhero things, Superman and Batman are like these main characters that end up giving a little bit of meta commentary at the end of the episode. It's fire. I think you're gonna like it. If you like superhero movies, you're gonna love it. And I think they just started doing these like smaller bites of How It Should Have Ended. I just saw one with Pokemon Red and Blue version, the video games. Check it out. You guys will not be disappointed. Keep wearing your masks. Oh, and before I bounce, essentially, I'm going to end the show off not with the same drop. What you're going to be hearing at the end when I'm done, when I give you that peace, when I give you the deuces, is a fire song that's close to me that I wrote, that is a new single that I put out during lockdown, during COVID. NYC gang. It's called New York City Song. We're gonna end this. Our drop at the end of these next few episodes is gonna be this song, reminding us New Yorkers who we are, fam. Reminding us that it ain't just about everything going on politically. It ain't just about people trying to act crazy and being wild here in NYC, but that there's a reason why this is called the greatest city on earth, why it's called the Big Apple, the city that never sleeps. Everybody wants to be us. Everybody idolizes us. Everybody wants to make sure that they're keeping up with us. So when I deuces, that's the song that you're going to hear, New York City Song. You can stream it anywhere. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. Type in New York City Song. Type in Marcus Pena. You're going to find it. If you want to buy it, it's on Google Play. Check it out. So, enjoy How It Should Have Ended. Hishi on YouTube. I don't think I said where you could find it. It's on YouTube, Hishi. Find it. Love it. For free entertainment. Y'all have a week's worth of entertainment with How It Should Have Ended. They've got a crazy backlog of content. It's super fire. If you like animated stuff, alternate sort of timeline stuff, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. So, mask up, social distance up, kill it at your jobs if your job's already open, kill it at your home jobs if you're working from home, get in your bag. All of my creatives, we're going to make it through this. I know a lot of us, I got a lot of friends that are just keeping the balls rolling for when everything opens up. Keep it tight, keep it right, stay hungry, continue to cultivate the hustle gene. Continue to dig in your jar, open it up, take stock, remind yourself of your power, of your agency, of your worth, and of your value. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Walking through my city, so many people passing me by. but nobody seems to know why. Street lights saying stop and go, cars zipping past me to and fro. Does anybody know now? Oh, how time is slipping. 'Cause under the surface of the push and shove is New York City. The hustle and bustle of this town I love, that's New York City. Could there be a future here? Oh, so many people giving their sweat and tears. Does someone know the way? I'm sick of taking it day by day. Oh, 'cause under the surface of the push and shove is New York City. The hustle and bustle